Alright guys, so we have a different type of video today because the Summer Game Fest 2023 has now come and gone, and we need to talk about it. There's actually a lot to discuss here. They showcased more than 40 different games. Yes, 40 games and several exciting surprises. Now the thing is that I have already seen some criticism online. Not everybody seems necessarily thrilled with this showcase. I get it, it's hard to please everybody. But if you follow me on Twitter, you might know I was actually pleasantly surprised with this showcase. Now, some people have kind of asked me online if I'm being sarcastic or if I'm trolling or anything like that because they thought it was a snooze fest. But no, I really wasn't being sarcastic. I genuinely, to my own surprise, found myself enjoying this showcase. So if you came in here hoping that I was just going to shred it to pieces, no, that's not what I'm going to do. No, I don't necessarily think it was the best showcase ever made, but coming from somebody that doesn't typically like Jeff Keighley events, I've been quite harsh on him in the past, but today, I genuinely thought it was one of his better efforts. Now, I will give a grade at the end of the video. Once again, I don't think it's the best showcase ever in the world, but we will take a look at my letter grade at the end of the video alongside your all's opinions as well, because that was the poll of the day. But what we're going to do here is take a look at the main reasons that I thought this was one of his better showcases, and maybe even possibly his best Summer Game Fest yet. Again, I don't know how much that's actually saying, but this all kind of starts off with the surprises. I mean, they were opened up right away with the surprise being Prince of Persia, The Lost Crown. This is that rumored 2D Prince of Persia game that we've talked about in the past, but here it is now a reality, and better yet, we got to see a lot of gameplay. Now, with that said, I don't know if I'm sold on the art style per se, or the character model specifically, but the gameplay itself, I think it looks intriguing. There was a lot of time manipulation mechanics, which, I mean, I think if you're a Prince of Persia fan, you're going to like that. And that's kind of the big thing here. The fact that we are getting a new Prince of Persia entry in the year of, well, in this case, 2024, that is something to be excited about. I've said this before, and I'll just kind of say it again. I like this idea of having multiple genres for a given franchise. You can have those big AAA entries because that's how these games adapted over the years, but at the same time, don't forget those smaller budget entries that kind of got them where they are in the first place. Something like Metroid Prime and Metroid Dread, Zelda Breath of the Wild and Zelda Link's Awakening. You can do both, and that's something that I think franchises like Prince of Persia and something like Castlevania should do as well. So I thought that this was a really cool announcement. No, I'm not necessarily sold on it just yet, but I am hoping for the best, and it will be available on all platforms when it launches on January 18th. Another big surprise here, though, I was not expecting this one, and that was Sonic Superstars. This might actually have been my game of the show, because I was not expecting this one at all. Sonic Frontiers last year, I thought was a great game. But out of nowhere, they announced this new 2D entry here. It almost has the art style of Sonic Generations, that is a fan favorite, and its gameplay, I think, looks absolutely fantastic. You can play as Sonic, you can play as Knuckles, Tails, and Amy. It's also got cooperative gameplay. And I mean, just like I said with Prince of Persia, this is Sega catering to both of their audiences. The 3D iteration with Sonic Frontiers, and now the 2D game here with Sonic Superstars. For that matter, the 2D Sonic games are more consistently praised, so we'll see how this one shapes up when it releases in fall of 2023. It, however, is, I believe, priced at $60. That might be a little high for a game like this, if true, but I guess we'll get more information on that here soon enough, and I will keep you updated once we hear more. Sandland also popped up here. This is Akira Toriyama's newest game. Now, if you don't know who he is, Akira is the creator of Dragon Ball, and he's worked on some great games in the past, such as Chrono Trigger, Blue Dragon, and even Dragon Quest. Yeah, quite the pedigree there. But here he's teaming up with Bandai Namco to bring his old manga to life, Sandland. Once again, as expected, it has his fingerprints all over it with his beautiful art on full display here. But here, you'll take on the role of an unlikely hero in a desert land. It's an action RPG that also has some vehicular combat. We'll see how that turns out, but I'd say at the very least, this one's worth keeping an eye on when it releases eventually for PlayStation, PC, and yes, interestingly enough, it's also coming over to Xbox. It's always nice to see Japanese developers support Xbox, and I think for fans of Blue Dragon, they'll be particularly happy with Sandland. Now, speaking of Xbox, though, we did get an update for one of Xbox Game Pass's most exciting upcoming games, Lies of P. This game absolutely blew fans away last year when it was first revealed at Gamescom. Lies of P very possibly was the game of the show when it was first revealed last year. It's basically a new adaptation of the popular Pinocchio franchise with Bloodborne-inspired combat. Quite the combination, but it truly looks excellent. So for all those eager out there to know exactly when we can play this game, we do now have a release date as well. They gave us a weird new trailer. I don't know if they really advanced its hype much here. Probably not its best showing, but it is set to launch on September 19th, including a day one Xbox Game Pass release. So you Game Pass fans out there, let's go, baby. Fun times ahead. And about anticipated release dates. Sony. They also showed up here in a big way. We got a new look into the Twisted Metal TV series. It looks ridiculous, honestly, but it is coming on July 27th. So there you go if you're interested in that. But the real reason that we're talking about Sony is because they confirmed the release date for none other than the highly anticipated Spider-Man 2. Go ahead and mark your calendars for October 20th. Now, I know I keep saying how good the month of June is. Diablo 4, Street Fighter 6, and Final Fantasy 16 in a 30-day period. But my goodness, October, it's looking pretty busy as well. We did also get a better look at Venom. He looks pretty excellent in terms of design. And interestingly enough, Insomniac, they teased a few tidbits here. Insomniac was being a little coy about some other Marvel heroes maybe possibly showing up, and then apparently the story that unfolds will be completely original. It's not based on a comic book or an already existing story. It's going to be something completely new and fresh for fans to discover themselves. That, to me, is exciting. That's one of the reasons that the first game was so great, in my opinion, because that once again gives Insomniac full creative control to make the best product that they possibly can. And I tell you this much, I do very much trust Insomniac. They've always been great at making games, whether that be with Spyro, they've made Sunset Overdrive, they've also made, of course, Ratchet & Clank, and then, obviously, Spider-Man. They know how to make good games. So, yeah, go and mark your calendars again for October 20th. For you PlayStation fans, though, there was one last major exclusive reveal for this showcase, and that was for Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. Now, I wasn't for sure if we would actually get an update today because Final Fantasy 16, that's not even out yet. That releases later this month, and it does kind of steal thunder from that game a little bit, but it didn't stop them because they did drop a lengthy gameplay trailer of Final Fantasy VII Rebirth and gave us several hints about its gameplay and story. Now, I would kind of need to watch it again to kind of figure out all of the different nuances, but it is becoming apparent that Final Fantasy VII Rebirth continues to follow a different trajectory than the original Final Fantasy VII. This is not a just simple recreation. They're doing something a little bit different. I won't go into details for spoiler purposes, but if you've played the original, you can kind of see that there are some, we're going to say, major differences here with how its story unfolds, especially with one specific event that they teased here. Interestingly enough, though, I have seen a theory about this before. This game isn't necessarily a remake. It's not even a reimagining. There's something else happening here, but it does look like that theory was accurate after all. As for the gameplay, though, the world appears to really open up, similar to the original once you leave Midgar. That's when things start to kind of expand. And that's one thing that you're seeing with this new trailer here, because they ended it by saying it comes on 2 discs. I mean, how often have we seen modern games come on 2 discs? I can't even actually think of one off the top of my head. Let me know in the comments below if you know of one, but the first thing about that is that it does go to show you Square Enix, they're not cheaping out by including a downloadable code. I mean, we just talked about this yesterday with Sonic Origins Plus, where a lot of its content is coming on a downloadable code, but here we have Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, a big AAA game, and they're trying to include it all, even if it takes them 2 discs. And that also tells me that Final Fantasy VII is going to be truly massive. That is crazy. I mean, honestly, as a huge, massive fan of Final Fantasy VII myself, I genuinely do believe that is one of the all-time greats. I am pumped about what we just witnessed. I have to think about this, but you know what? This game probably is, in the very least, in my top 3 most anticipated games right now, maybe even top 1. Really, there's only one other game that immediately comes to my mind right here that I would put up atop that list, and that's actually another game they talked about at this showcase, being Alan Wake 2. We did get an update for Alan Wake 2 as well. Sam Lake came out and talked about how Alan Wake and the new FBI character are in two separate worlds that are somehow connected. You can pick and choose when you play as each character to kind of advance their stories forward. You can kind of advance each story at your own pace. But basically, Alan Wake is writing the story that's happening in this new character's world where she's investigating a series of murders, and then suddenly, as we often see when it comes to Remedy games, some weird paranormal things happen. In this case, the victims are coming back to life, and yeah, those horror elements really seem to ramp up here in the sequel. It's such an interesting premise, though, but I thought the most important detail here was that you don't have to play the first Alan Wake to understand what's happening in the sequel. I know a lot of people missed out on the first game, unfortunate really, because it's an excellent game. Definitely go check it out if you haven't already, but you don't really have to, is kind of the thing with Alan Wake 2, because apparently new players will learn what's happening alongside the new character as she's also catching up on what happened in the previous game. If anything, I mean, I just think Alan Wake 2 just continues to keep that hype going. Of course, though, I know a lot of people were excited about Mortal Kombat 1 as well. That was one of the big gameplay updates that they were teasing leading into this event, and they absolutely did that as they revealed several characters, their gameplay, and the new fighting system. The big new mechanic here is cameo fighters, where you basically mix and match characters to fight alongside one another. So let's just go ahead and hypothetically say that you want to play as Scorpion. He's my personal favorite. And then you can have Goro backing him up. Well, you can call Goro in when needed to extend combos and different things like that. I'm sure there's probably some other things you can do with it, but it really gives players creative control. And I mean, just kind of thinking about that, it's going to be insane to see what the FGC can come up with. Other than that, though, I mean, the one thing that really stood out to me with the gameplay trailer that they showed here is that it looks more fluid and really more brutal than ever before. Now, the last big game that I want to kind of talk about here, though, is Like a Dragon, The Man Who Erased His Name. Sega, they had a pretty good showing here with, as we talked about before, Sonic Superstars, and then also this, The Man Who Erased His Name, being the latest installment to the long-running Yakuza franchise. As many of you all probably know already, I personally believe that the Yakuza series is one of the best story-driven franchises ever made. I genuinely do believe that, and Kiryu is coming back as the main protagonist once again. And I think that if you do like the Yakuza series, that is very, very exciting. Now, from my understanding of things, though, this game is a sequel to Yakuza 6, but it's also a prequel to Yakuza 7. So this will kind of connect the two games together, and it also sounds like it might be a little bit smaller in scale. It's priced at $50, interestingly enough, so that does kind of lead me to believe that this could be a little bit smaller in scale. But for those that are wanting that action combat to return, instead of the turn-based combat that we got in Yakuza 7, you're going to be pretty happy here, because that beat-em-up combat is indeed back, and yes, it looks great. It looks flashy, and I cannot wait to get my hands on this game when it releases on November 9th for Xbox, PC, and PlayStation. Oh, and by the way, I know some of you are wondering about an English dub. The trailer only had Japanese, which led some people to believe that they did away with the English dub, but no, that doesn't appear to be the case after all. Steam does have English audio listed as well. So, there you go. Crisis averted. Those, though, were really my big highlights of this showcase, and I think just because of these games alone, this is why I would say that I thought that this showcase, it was rather solid, and it's why I enjoyed it. Now, there were some other games that I thought looked pretty good as well, so we'll kind of go over some of those briefly here. Space Marine, it got a reveal here for fans of that franchise. It's looking nice with some cooperative gameplay. Could be one of the better cooperative shooters to release this winter. So if you do like shooters, and especially if you want a cooperative game, definitely keep an eye on Space Marine. There was also a highly strange announcement for Palworld. Now, this game is basically Pokemon with guns. Yeah, it sounds crazy, and that's why the audience was quite literally laughing as they showed gameplay, because they're not even trying to be coy with their design here. It straight up looked like they ripped the design from some very popular Pokemon monsters. If you play Pokemon, you understand what I'm talking about. But they instead were strapped with some heavy machinery guns. It was weird, but hey, it could be fun, and it will be launching in early access in January of 2024. Now, speaking of strange, though, there was a few other strange announcements, like Street Fighter 6 is coming to Exoprimal this fall. That's Capcom's new Xbox Game Pass game, which is set to release next month on July 14th. Another reason to love Xbox Game Pass. But now you can beat up some dinosaurs in that game with some different Street Fighter characters when, again, it releases this fall. There was also some other various fun reveals like that as well, such as Nick Cage, which is apparently coming over to Dead by Daylight. Who would have thought? But there you go. There's also a new Lord of the Rings game coming for fans of that franchise, Immortals of Aveum. This is a new IP coming from EA. We have talked about it before, but it continues to look like a fun first-person shooter. We also got updates for Call of Duty Warzone and Fortnite for you Battle Royale fans out there. Not really my thing, but if you like those type of games, that was great. And again, I just think that this was a good, solid showcase. Like I said at the beginning of the video, I don't think that this was the best showcase in the world. And I'm sure some people would love to hear me just rip this showcase to parts. People like that type of content, I guess. But I prefer to be excited about the future. And for all of the games that I just talked about, I think that there's a lot to be excited about here. I think at the bare minimum, this was one of Jeff Keighley's better showcases to date. Now, I understand that that might not be saying a lot. He's had some letdowns in the past. I get that. I've been harsh on him in the past. But for a third-party showcase, I thought that this was pretty good. So I'm going to go ahead and give this showcase a B-. But the more important part here is what you all thought. So let's just go and take a look at what you all had to say and see how many actually agrees with me here. Because in the poll of the day, I did ask you all give me a letter grade and check it out. The majority of you gave it a C, being 45%. Then 26% of you gave it a B, 14% a D, 8% an A, and then 7% an F. So it does appear most of you all thought it was just an okay showcase, but at the same time, 34% of you all did give it an A or B, which makes me feel a whole lot better about my own score here. It does seem like a good portion of you, at the very least, are in my camp on this one. Again, I'm not always a big Jeff Keighley fan. A lot of you all probably already know that. And to be fair, I had like zero expectations because of that exact reason. But I did leave pretty happy here. I haven't said that in a while when it comes to his showcases, so there's that. Here's the thing, though, and this is what really gets me excited as a gamer. We're only now getting started because we still have 3 different showcases over the next 4 days. We still have that Xbox Bethesda showcase on June 11th. Then we got the Capcom showcase, which they're already teasing some exciting games. We'll talk about that tomorrow. And then also Ubisoft has their event on June 12th as well. As always, just gotta stay subscribed because I'll be here with you all every step of the way. Fun times ahead. With that said, though, that's it for this video, but do hit that bell notification and subscribe button below for more content just like this. Also, if you'd like to support me on Patreon, thank you for making this content possible. Other than that, until next time, peace out.